Hey guys, I want to do a video real fast. And this video is entitled Pay $50 for a Property Targeting Delinquent Property Taxes. So let me give you a little bit of backdrop on delinquent property taxes. So years ago, when I was beginning my quest for real estate investing, when I was in the state of California, I began to discover that there were people that were in a different type of foreclosure situation. And it wasn't your typical mortgage foreclosure. Okay? It wasn't where people stopped paying their mortgage payment and ultimately the bank was starting a foreclosure process and people were losing their properties. This type of foreclosure is different. This foreclosure that I'm referring to is property tax foreclosure. And many of you have heard the terms of tax deed sale and tax lien sales. These go on for a good part, all over the United States. Okay, these are people who have not paid their property taxes, and so they go into a stage of like a foreclosure. And so one of the opportunities that many real estate investors have out there, as well as real estate agents and brokers and others that are involved in real estate, is targeting these people that are losing their properties to being behind on property taxes. So let me run through some scenarios of how you can acquire a property for $50 targeting these delinquent property taxes. So example number one, what you can do as an investor is you can contact a seller or contact an owner. And this particular owner is, let's say this owner is 3 years, maybe 4 years behind on taxes in your area. And that owner is incredibly motivated. And the owner of this particular property you're talking about is a property that the owner does not live in. It's a property that is down the street or across town or whatever, which is referred to as an absentee owner. It's an owner that doesn't live at that residence. So the property is just sitting there, needs a little bit of work. And so what you do is you go back and forth and you let the owner know that you can go ahead and purchase that property, saying that you represent a group of investors who goes ahead and buys properties, turns around, fixes them up, and sells them. And you are really interested in that part of town, and their particular property interests you, and you'd like to go ahead and buy it. Obviously, there's some teaching and some context behind that. The owner gives you a price, and it is an attractive price. And so what you do is you write up a contract, okay? And your consideration for that particular contract is $50. You write up the contract, the owner goes ahead and signs the contract. You go ahead and you give that contract to a title company along with $50, okay? That $50 is the consideration that's going to bind that contract together. Well, because that property has equity, a lot of equity, even though it needs some work. What you do is you go ahead, you go out and you find a cash buyer to close out the deal. That is one way that you would buy a property for $50. Another way to go ahead and acquire a property for $50 with that same scenario and say yes, you like to go ahead, buy that property, and you want to go ahead and keep that property. Well, what you do is you go ahead, make that owner an offer, right? You sign your part, they sign their part. You pay $50 to the title company. Now, remember, if you're going to keep the property, you as the investor / buyer are going to go ahead and have to go ahead and pay all the back property taxes up to date. So you go ahead, you buy the property, you pay all the property taxes up to date. Should that property have any other private liens on it, loans, etc., you're going to pay those liens, loans, whatever. And bam, you have yourself a property. Now, that is a second way. Another way, let me flip it a little bit. Another way to go ahead and to acquire a property for $50, targeting people that have delinquent property taxes. So let's say, for instance, you come across a property that has no equity. No equity. That property is in a nice part of town. That property is worth $150,000. There is a loan on that property for $148,000. Like I said, no equity. Okay. There is a back tax amount of $2,000. And so what you do is you go ahead, you contact the owner. The owner is crazy motivated. And because of this particular scenario, they have, like I said, this is a hypothetical, but this is actually real. They have a property that essentially has no equity. How would you go about putting a deal like that together? And so you go ahead and you contact the owner. Owner is crazy motivated. They know that they can't list it with an agent because it would cost them money to list with an agent. So they're just going to go ahead and let the property go. All right. So with a scenario like this, you say, yes, I would like to go ahead and buy your property for that amount, for $150,000. $148,000. You let them know that you'll go ahead and you will take care of the $2,000 delinquent property tax payment. And they say, yes, thank you very much. And so what you do is you write up an agreement. You fill out your portion. The owner fills out their portion. You can go ahead and allow a title company to go ahead and, because what you're going to do is buy this property subject to the existing financing. Subject to the existing financing. It just so happens that in this particular scenario, that your mortgage payment or your mortgage company did not go ahead and take care of delinquent property taxes. So your mortgage company did not take care of the property taxes. So therefore, you're going to have to go ahead and take care of the property taxes. So you're going to buy the property for $148,000. You're going to go ahead and give the title company $50. Okay, $50 binds the contract. So you're going to go ahead and write up an agreement for $148,000. You're going to pay that seller monthly mortgage payments. You're going to put those monthly mortgage payments into an additional escrow account. You're going to take care of the back $2,000 delinquent property tax payment. Now you got this piece of property that you bought via subject to the existing financing for $148,000. You also got to take care, like I said before, that $2,000 delinquent property tax payment. So now you're into it really for $150,000, right? Plus some additional fees, closing, whatever it is. So let's just say $150,000. How would you make a deal like that work? How would you make a deal like that work? Well, you go ahead, you buy the property subject to the existing financing. You turn around and sell it on a lease option. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take that same property and you're going to market it in that area. Okay, you're going to market that cute little property that needs no work. You're going to say, hey, look, I have a piece of property here, and it's for sale via a lease option, 10% down or $15,000 down, and $1,500 a month in the monthly mortgage payment. Now, the monthly mortgage payment on it right now, let's assume, is $1,100 a month. Okay, that's the mortgage payment. So the monthly payment coming to you from the tenant buyer, which is what you're going to do with your lease option, is $1,500 a month. You're going to get $15,000 down. And so what you're going to do is write up the deal, turn around, sell that property on a lease option. You can do a 1-year lease option. So you're going to collect $15,000. And you're also going to collect $1,500 a month. Now remember, the monthly mortgage payment on a property like that is $1,100. Okay? So basically, you're going to pocket $400 a month as well as the $15,000 down. That is an example of how you can acquire a property for $50. Okay? Because out of that $2,000 that you're going to pay with that delinquent property taxes, remember, you're going to get $15,000 from a tenant buyer. So a portion of that can go towards paying those back property taxes. One of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and go about these different scenarios of how to go ahead and buy a property for $50 is that you really actually can buy a cheap piece of property. And you're really able to do this for an inexpensive amount of money. Let me give you another scenario. So let's go back to that same seller. That same seller has a property that has code violations against the property. Okay? So the code violations are stressing the owner out, and the owner no longer wants the property because the city is on them. And if they don't take care of this code violations, they're going to go ahead and condemn that property because that property has boarded up windows and the property's always getting broken into. And in other words, the seller associates that property with a big problem. Okay, that's a huge problem. And so what they do is, or what you do is, you go ahead, you tell the seller, yes, I'd be able to go ahead and buy the property. And so what you do is you go ahead and you write up a contract, right? You write up your portion. The seller fills out their portion. You put $50 down. And you can do with that property what it is you want. Because you've done your due diligence, you can wholesale that property. You can keep that property as a rental. Or because that property can potentially push off a good amount of cash flow, you could turn that property into a boarding house situation. Not just a rental, but oftentimes a rental on steroids. And this is what I mean. So, let's assume that that property is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Okay? Needs work. Let's say it needs about, let's say $7,000 in work. Right? The code violations, to take care of those, is another $2,000. And remember, you got back property taxes, which is another $2,000. So $2,000 plus $2,000 plus $7,000. That's $11,000 for a property to go ahead and get that back functioning again. Now, in this particular area, hypothetically, let's assume that the monthly rents in this particular area go for, let's say they go for $1,100 a month, right? So to rent that property out, it goes for $1,100 a month in terms of monthly rents, okay? Now, in this area also, let's assume that people are moving in that area like crazy, but it's a primary ownership type situation. Now, you can go ahead and turn around and rent that property out for $1,100 a month. Or what you could do is turn around and rent rooms out for $550 a piece, which is $1,650 a month, renting rooms out. Guys, what I'm saying is this: there's so many different ways to tie up a property and to buy a property for $50, targeting people with delinquent property taxes. In other words, $50 out of your pocket. And some of the scenarios are you're going to pay $50 and that's it. Okay, which is like the wholesale situation. Some of the scenarios, if you keep it, you're going to pay $50 and whatever it costs to fix it up. Some of the scenarios, like the one that I explained with the subject to the existing financing, where you're going to get the money, typically is from that tenant buyer. Okay. See, where there is no equity at times, you can essentially create equity. And what I'm talking about here, guys, is a concept called creative real estate finance. All you have to do is be creative. Whether you are an investor, whether you are an agent. Let me give you another scenario. You come across a property that is behind on taxes and it's a piece of land. And so what you do is that seller is crazy motivated because that parcel of land is in an area of houses that goes for a pretty decent price. Let's say $150 to $200. And so what you do is you tie that property up in a wholesale contract, right? And for $50, you sign your part, seller signs their part, you tie the property up, you turn around and wholesale it to a cash buyer. Or what you do is you go to Google and you type in, let's say, developers in the area. What do? They develop houses. What would they be interested in? A piece of land that presents a very attractive opportunity, something that you have. Guys, there's so many ways and so many things you can do with $50. It's scary. Some of it, you're going to have additional monies to go ahead and move on the deals. Some of it, all you need is $50 to go ahead and wholesale a particular deal. You can do this for $10. You can do it for $100. All right? All you have to do is continue to be an outside the box type of thinker. Okay? If you all found value in this video, please click the like button. Also share it with family and friends. I have a course that is going to be linked beneath this video that teaches you delinquent property tax investing and how to go after these delinquent property taxes. Okay, this is real, but it takes effort and it takes persistence. And it takes being consistent. Okay, so if you all are interested, feel free to join my real estate investing group on Facebook called the House Flipping Family. Links will be in the description. Links will be in the description for the Delinquent Property Tax course. Also, I'm going to have some additional links and another video that I created that has gotten over 100,000 views, guys. This is real. This is real. So. This is Gerald. You all have a great day. Take care.